Now that we have seen the rules for how to play an opening well, we will look at several examples of famous chess openings and see how these rules are applied. Also, the openings generally assume that your opponent also knows these rules and that therefore he is trying to stop you from carrying out your plans and you're trying to do the same, and we'll see how that interplay goes. The first opening we're going to look at is the Ruy Lopez. E4. So white puts a pawn on a central square. E5, black does the same. White attacks the pawn like that. Black defends the pawn like that. Now white goes to b5. This is slightly complicated, but what white is doing is trying to undermine the knight, which is defending the pawn. It looks funny, black just ignores it, in fact provokes white. He plays a6 attacking the bishop. And now remember, watch out for your opponent's threats. This would be a terrible move because black would simply capture your bishop and be a whole piece up. But if we're undermining the piece, why can't we do so? Well, this line has been played and is usually now accompanied by castles. The problem, if you take the pawn, is that black has this clever move, queen d4, attacking both pieces. Remember, when two pieces are attacked, you always protect the more important one. But queen e4 check, and black has regained his pawn. So even though bishop b5 is undermining the knight, you do not want to take it immediately. It's more of a plan of action for later. Bishop a4. Knight f6. Black attacks the white pawn. And now we'll see that again white lets black take that pawn. So you see, the principles aren't applied very rigidly. Even though black is attacking the pawn, he's not actually threatening to take it right away. What happens if you take it? Well then, in fact, white goes for this. And now it turns out that if you capture this, white pins the knight. Black has to play d5. White pins the knight and threatens f3, attacking this knight, which cannot move because it's pinned against the king. So black will then have to resort to all sorts of tactics with bishop d6, but anyway it's doubtful that this is a good position for black. So black typically then plays b5, bishop b3, d5, de5, bishop e6. And this is a complex opening, so it's perfectly playable, but your choice of which sub-variation of this complex you want to enter into depends on taste. You may choose a position here because the position is slightly unbalanced. White has an advanced e-pawn, you have a d-pawn. That will lead to a certain kind of play. And so as you become more and more familiar with openings, you'll make more and more informed choices about which ones you want to play and which ones you don't, based on what you like playing. That's a perfectly acceptable opening. Because it's slightly open, it's called the open Spanish. But the main classical line is simply to play bishop e7. Now what's happening? If white executes his plan to take the pawn, then black simply recaptures the pawn. White goes rook e1, attacking the knight. Black goes back. And what has happened here? Well, we can see that white cannot do this because of this, and now the bishop is blocking the rook. So the threat here was, if black had not played bishop e7, then rook e1 would be very, very strong. But after bishop e7, black renews his threat to capture on e4. So now typically white plays rook e1. And This means that now white is threatening this pawn again. If black were to castle, good application of a principle. Get your king out. But the problem is you have to watch out for your opponent's threats. Knight takes e5, so white captured the knight, black captured the pawn. And now the idea with queen d4 doesn't work because white simply comes back to f3, attacking the queen. And if black took the pawn, then white would take the queen. And what has happened? We have traded a piece of 5 points for a piece of 9 points. Therefore, this trade is unfavorable. And if black cannot do this, then he cannot recover the pawn, so he'll have to be a pawn down. So the typical continuation for black is b5, bishop b3. Obviously, there is no other square, and a bishop is more valuable than a pawn, so you have to step back. Then black plays d6 to support the e5 pawn and also give the bishop a chance to participate in the game. White goes c3, black castles. This is considered a very prudent option. You remember white is castled as well. And this sets the stage for the main Ruy Lopez. Now the most popular move is h3 because white wants to eliminate bishop g4. But there are also other lines. You can play d4, allowing bishop g4, and then bishop e3. That's playable because it's a different kind of game. Again, just like the Open Spanish, this one is a matter of taste. Some people like doing it, some people don't. h3. And now we've reached the main Ruy Lopez. Black has many continuations. I will try to discuss each one and show you what the point is. The first is knight a5. Now, we can say that a bishop is slightly more valuable than a knight, and therefore, to avoid that exchange, white goes bishop c2, black plays c5. This has the result of gaining a bit of space. White plays d4, remember, advance to the center, and black plays queen c7, fortifying his pawns. This is one kind of Ruy Lopez. The second one is this move. This is a very peculiar animal. You're moving a piece twice and you're moving it backwards. What could be the reason? Well, the point is the knight here is blocking the pawn. So we saw one method of going to a5 to release the pawn. This is another method, knight b8. And it's a very typical method in the Ruy Lopez. d4, knight bd7. So black feels that his knight is much better placed here because later on when his bishop gets to b7, it's not blocked by the knight, it's putting pressure on the center. So we see a slightly unusual idea here, which is that after knight b8 and knight bd7, when white develops harmoniously, black can do so as well. And black has started to keep an eye on the e-pawn. The third line is to play bishop b7 without attacking the pawn directly by moving the knight. White plays d4. Always the same idea. White has played this move c3 so that he can play d4. And now he plays d4, occupying the center. Black plays rook e8. And what we have is a very dynamic way. The bishop is blocked by the knight and the rook is blocked by the bishop. But black is saying that on the next move after knight bd2, he will go bishop f8, thereby setting up the x-ray against the pawn. And at some point, he will also move his knight. So this could happen after bishop c2. You go knight b8, and now the bishop is free to attack the pawn. And it's the same idea. The knight will come to d7 next. So if you're interested, that's called the Breyer variation, named after a player. And that's called the Zaitsev variation, also named after a player. There are one or two more other options. Black can also play this move. And the idea here is after d4 to play bishop f6, and what black is doing is multiplying the pressure on the d4 pawn. So, I mean, there's a lot of theory, advanced theory that we can get to in due course, but at the moment I just wanted to show you how opening theory evolves. So around a basic concept, release the c7 pawn, gain a bit of space and counterattack the e4 square, so many different variations evolved. And in fact, one variation ignored the e4 pawn and went for the d4 pawn instead. So there is a lot of scope for creativity and your own interpretations. You can come up with new plans, but these are the various plans that have been tried. And this is the Ruy Lopez, one of the most important openings in chess. And a good way to study chess at a very deep level is just to play this opening, because there are a lot of profound ideas and going through them will improve your game. So you should definitely take a look at some of the classic examples we leave for you here.